Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask you to make your way into the auditorium and take your seats. It is 4 o'clock and we're going to kick off with our next session. And to introduce the next seminar, I'd like you please to give a very warm welcome now to the Chairman, Chief Executive of BBDO Asia, Middle East and Africa, and the Chairman of Proximity Worldwide, Mr. Chris Thomas.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Matthew. It gives me great pleasure to introduce two very different speakers responsible for wildly different brands. But they've got one thing in common, and that is China. They operate in one of the most extraordinarily dynamic markets in the world where it comes to brand management and content creation. It's one of the most connected and socially active markets in the world. There are 570 million people online. That's double the size of the US population. And they are very, very active. On average, they spend 20 hours per week online, 50 minutes a day spent on social sites, and 66% of consumers follow brands, on average about 8 brands. In the next minute, start the clock now, in the next minute, 90 new people in China will get connected to the internet. There'll be 148,000 visits to the e-commerce platform Taobao. There'll be 73,000 transactions on Alipay, the PayPal equivalent. There'll be 95,000 posts on Weibo, a social platform that combines the features of Facebook and Twitter. 139,000 pictures will be uploaded and shared through QQ. And there will be around 3.5 million searches on Baidu, the Google equivalent. So that happened in the last minute. In this highly, highly complex world, brands have to find a way of reaching those extraordinary number of eyeballs. To tell us how they achieve that, I'm delighted to welcome Richard Lee from PepsiCo and Alexei Orlov from Volkswagen. They will each tell their story in about 10 to 15 minutes, and then, if we have time, we'll have a brief conversation at the end about what they've learned from each other. A little on the speakers. Richard Lee is the Chief Marketing Officer of PepsiCo and Chief Creative Officer at Tingyi Asahi Beverages in China. His responsibilities include leading the product innovation and brand activation for all PepsiCo food and beverage brands, as well as oversight of creative and consumer communication inputs for all brands at Tingyi Asahi. Richard has worked in the US for PepsiCo and in China. He's a consummate marketer with a strong creative leaning. He's fascinated by film and content and leverages that passion in content creation for PepsiCo. Alexei Orlov is the CMO for Volkswagen Group China. He's responsible for the overall marketing and brand strategy for all Volkswagen brands across Greater China and ASEAN. This makes him responsible for a dazzling array of brands, including Volkswagen, Skoda, Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Seat, Bugatti, and Porsche. He has extensive global and regional operational experience spanning 25 years across 40 countries. He's worked as a consultant and was also formerly with Wunderman for 8 years as the president of Europe and then moving to the USA as executive vice chairman worldwide. So, great pleasure to introduce both of them. Richard will go first and then and followed by Alexei in about 10 minutes or so. Thank you. Richard.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone is enjoying the beautiful weather in Cannes. I certainly am. What I'm about to share is an ongoing journey that we started 2 years ago. I hope you'll find it useful, and I hope it will also inspire you to take your own journey. Every story has a setting, and our story happens during a location that resonates with every Chinese on earth, and that's Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year, as some people call it Spring Festival, is the most important season for Chinese people culturally and socially. As many Chinese people actually walk away from their hometown, some people say it is the world's biggest human migration. Some 700 million Chinese make 3 billion trips across China every year. Oh, sorry. This is So you can imagine, every business aims to capitalize on the celebratory mood of people to shop. The demand for advertising space is very intense. And it doesn't help that China has one of the most complex media environments. As China is so big and economic development differs across city tiers, there's really no one China in the media scene. It's extremely fragmented and cluttered. There are more than 3,000 TV stations. It can range from national, provincial, local, satellite, and cable. And it's not unusual for a consumer to have access of up to 100 TV channels. The online world is even more diverse. As Chris pointed out earlier, it's vastly expanding. There are more than 2 million Chinese language websites to choose from. While internet penetration is at 50%, the mobile penetration is at 80% with roughly 1 billion users. And with the fast adoption of smartphones, actually there are more people accessing the internet from the mobile than from traditional PC. So, having a traditional television commercial designed just for the TV channel just won't break the clutter. We need to have a big idea that could travel across multiple city tiers and also across multiple screens. And also, we have to ensure that it's right for the Chinese cultural context. As you know, China has been developing at unprecedented pace for the last 30 years. But this rapid economic development comes with many challenges. One of which is that many people are beginning to lose touch with traditional family values and community spirit. And this sentiment is particularly apparent among young people who are strivers and who want to raise ahead in this world full of big opportunities. According to a recent survey, some 70% of Chinese youth expressed they have hesitation to go home during Chinese New Year. They don't want to go home because they're either too busy at work or they want to take pleasurable trips with their friends to visit other places. So this sets the stage for us to connect with youth at a deeper level. We want to remind them that family values have always been a core Chinese tradition and should not be compromised at the expense of economic advancement. In fact, the word country in Chinese is called 国家. So nation and family, they've always been linked together. Now, we also want to extend the definition of family to include not just blood relatives, but everyone in the larger sense of communities. So a home is not just your own house, but everywhere that you can find love and happiness. So a family member can be your colleague, your next door neighbor, or even your courier that delivers your mail every day. So this forms the basis of the concept of our Bring Happiness Home campaign. It's an integrated campaign that centers around a mini movie, which stars the top Chinese celebrities. We are in the second year of this journey. I apologize because even though we record a mini movie, the movie is still 22 minutes long, so I can't screen it here. So what I would do is just to share with you a short video that gives you a flavor of the campaign and also about the movie. And I'll come back with some closing observations. Thanks.
Is developing at breakneck speed. However, the cost of progress sometimes comes with a heavy price: the loss of humanity and family values. This was particularly apparent among Chinese youth who were falling victim to an eroding culture. And this anxiety was even more apparent during Chinese New Year, a period when families should be reunited, no matter how far apart they lived. But this is no longer the case.
爸，我和朋友约了去旅行。
今年我也回不去了，对不起啊，爸。
PepsiCo wanted to remind Chinese youth of the importance of culture and demonstrate that happiness in life comes from humanity and traditional family value. In order to do that, we needed a bigger and more visionary game plan. We realize that there is a special commonality amongst 3 of our biggest brands in Chinese. All 3 brands share the character Le, which means happiness. This is not only the brand's communication platform, it is also this festival's traditional greeting. Most of all, it is what PepsiCo hoped Chinese youth would do. That is, to bring happiness home. In 2012, we embarked on rebuilding family bonds, establishing that family is the source of real happiness and reminding youth that when they reach home to meet their parents, they are the happiness that walks through their door. The campaign continued in 2013 as we raised the bar to expand the definition of family to more than just blood relatives. And a home is not a house, but it's everywhere you find love. It's centered on a 20-minute mini-movie that followed the lives of strangers trying to make their way back home, stranded in a snowstorm. Followed by the movie's theme song music video, featuring popular singers from The Voice of China. We created a simple but powerful gesture to signify how open hearts can turn strangers into family. We also developed a QR code to allow people to upload the music video and forward it to friends with a personalized message thanking them for being a part of their lives. Our content appeared on every kind of screen and was widely viewed as people made their way home. And even on the ground, no touch point was left unexplored. We reached out to the government to amplify our message. We collaborated across social media platforms to develop many innovative ideas to trigger conversations. Within 7 weeks, our content views crossed the 1 billion mark and became China's most watched video during Chinese New Year 2013. Campaign awareness reached an astounding 86%. Total earned media was valued at over $12 million US. Our initiative was successfully endorsed by the Chinese government, who featured the campaign on the state-owned CCTV News. Most importantly, we walked the talk by helping 1,000 Chinese reunite with their loved ones when they were unable to. Business performance aside, our greatest happiness came from inspiring people to rediscover a little bit of the humanity lost in the pursuit of progress. We call this performance with purpose.
Thank you. Well, as you can see from our case study, online branded content in the form of entertainment could actually be quite effective to engage with consumers. And the rise of social media in China actually produced many new opportunities. Specifically, we can now leverage a lot of helping hands to push our content. But to have the consumers to push voluntarily, we have to make them own our idea. They have to make it theirs. And to do this, we have to define a unique brand angle and synchronize with local culture. When that happens, content becomes connection. In our case, that unique brand DNA is obviously our brand names, which means happiness. For example, actually, Pepsi-Cola in Chinese is called 百事可乐, also means 100 moments of happiness. So during Chinese New Year, we turn our brand name into a greeting called Wish You Pepsi-Cola, also means wish you 100 moments of happiness, so that people can be saying the greeting to each other and pass it along. Now you may say that we are lucky that we have our brand names, but I believe that every brand will have its own unique DNA. You just have to find that creative and relevant angle and give it a deeper meaning. Yes, we have achieved high share of mind with all these brilliant views and so on. But I would say that our biggest success lies in winning the share of heart, not just with the consumers, but also with the employees and even the government. We see with our eyes, but we feel with our heart. It's the feeling that changes people. We can be rest assured that technology will keep on changing in years to come. But emotional stories with a heightened sense of purpose are timeless. And the most engaging stories are often the ones that are founded on the most basic human truth. And don't underestimate the importance of purpose in the equation, as it could inspire people to act positively and differently, even with your own team. Take, for example, we encountered the biggest snowstorm in 50 years when we shot our campaign. All the roads were blocked. No one could get to the shooting site. We had to change our plan at the last minute. It was really a desperate situation. But everyone on the team persisted and went out of the way to give extra effort because they felt a strong purpose that this campaign would make a meaningful difference in the Chinese society. And at the end, it's this extra effort that saved our campaign. So, if there's one thing that I want to leave with you, is that for every business objective should come with a purpose. As Gandhi said, find purpose, the means will come. Thank you. Now I want to pass to Alexei for an exciting story of Volkswagen.
虚拟的东西，然后不喜欢太现实的东西。我喜欢在城市里骑电瓶车的感觉，经常看见堵车很严重，所以我想设计一辆汽车来解决这个问题。会飞的车。然后有一次浏览网页的时候，我看到就是说大众汽车那个很可爱的那个小变形车，看到了这个活动之后，天天都在想汽车。
One of the key attributes is to be able to dream, and to dream like a child. Because there you dream and you're free, completely free.
说有一个平台，就是说可让我们把自己的想法给表达出来，然后传到网上。
If you look at any breakthrough, any true technological breakthrough, you can go back in time to a time frame where the acknowledged experts said, that's nonsense. But then it happens.
从来没有想过下一个让成都这样有名的是我们王家。
中国发展得很快，我感受应该说改变还是挺大的，因为我爷爷奶奶是农民，我父母是做小生意的，而我设计了悬浮车。
女士们、先生们，你好。Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. What you saw over there was a truly inspirational piece of work done by our Volkswagen team. It embraced people like never before, and I really wanted to share with you today a little bit about that story. What I first want to do, technology. What I first want to do is I want to share with you a couple of other things first. I think as a Westerner, the one thing I have learned in working with China and now being in China is that I think you need about 500 years to understand 1% of China as a Westerner. And I think if you go to China with an open heart, with a heart that wants to embrace and to learn, then just maybe you get a chance to do something good in China. Today I want to share with you two cornerstones that I've had to learn and that I'm sharing with my people, and also one important brand wisdom that I would also like to share with you. Now, I talk about China as a place of learning, and truly is. Most of us here will know that, for example, China invented paper, that China invented the compass, gunpowder, and printing. So I wondered to myself, is it really true and is it really right that we should say that China is a rising empire? I don't think China is a rising empire. I think China is a returning empire. They were doing things when a lot of us were still in caves, let's face it. And I heard and I discovered the other day something else about paper, which I thought was rather funny, and that's what I love about China. You're always learning things. Did you know that China invented toilet paper? But here's the thing, only the emperor was allowed to use the toilet paper, so a bit of a bummer. So there are amazing things going on in China. Did you know that it's not Dell or HP that are the largest PC maker, but rather it is Lenovo? Did you know, for example, that Huawei is actually the largest telecom supplier? Did you know, for example, that Alibaba actually is larger than Amazon and eBay? And the gentleman you see up here is a gentleman called Jack Ma, who actually used to be a school teacher. He is now happily retired and, of course, extremely wealthy. China also boasts some of the world's leading companies. ICBC, China Construction Bank, Agricultural Bank, and PetroChina are all in the top 10. And what about automotive? It's extraordinary. In 2009, China led the world in passenger cars. 30 years, that's all it took. In 2020, there will be 30 million passenger cars, and there will be over 60 brands in China, of which 60 of those potentially will be domestic. 30 years VW has spent in China. 30 years. In 2012, despite having spent 30 years in China, we had to spend in excess of $1 billion marketing dollars just on the Volkswagen brand, just to stay in that market. Despite the fact that we had a record-breaking first quarter in 2013, despite the fact that we had a record-breaking 2012, we still have to spend that amount of money in China. In fact, we are contributing today around a third of VW sales across the world in China. This is what we are doing just on Volkswagen. I look after a number of other brands as well. 2.1 million cars. So we are actually doing very well. We are the market leader. But here's an incredibly important thing that I always remind our people. You know, a few years ago, we actually held 56% of the market share in China. So somebody is having our lunch for us. It's only really over the last 3 to 4 years that we have seen significant improvements in our market share. And despite that, we still have low customer loyalty. This year alone in China, we will suffer the loss of something like 500,000 people who will migrate out of our brand into other brands. And whilst that is going on, surprisingly, we are still growing. So despite our internal passion, despite the fact that we are spending so much money on innovation, there is still so much to do. And the reality is that efficiency is all great, but actually effectiveness is much better for us. We have had an over-reliance, if you like, on short-term media spend. And we have relied a lot on awareness, when really it's not awareness we should be worrying about, but rather effectiveness. And within that, the affection that we really need to have with our consumers. The reality is that 73%, and I'll repeat that, 73% of all sales in automotive and actually all high-ticket items in China come from referral. That's amazing. In the United States, it's around 45%. So that's the power of all those whispers, of all those people with influence creating a mighty shout. And we had a terrible wake-up call in 2010 when we discovered, much to our surprise and our horror, that we were only 126th place ranked in China as loved brand. And the problem about that is that car manufacturers and people who work in automotive, often have only worked in automotive, think that people come from Planet Zog, they come down, they buy a car, and they go back to Planet Zog. It doesn't work that way. We weren't actually in the conversation at all. And is it important that we win hearts? It's very, very important. Why? Because there's a big difference in branding between need and desire. And the reality is great brands are all about the bottom line. It's that 5% of magic, the difference between loss and profit. It's crucial. And so we realized we had to do something about that. Google says that there are only 17, or rather there are as many as 17 points to decision-making when someone buys a car. And I'm not too sure that that's correct as it relates to China. The importance of referral and the power of deferral are extraordinarily important in understanding word of mouth and social media in China. So what I want to now do is show you this diagram, this marvelous circle of interconnecting thoughts. And I want to spend the next 20 minutes going through this one chart with you. Is that okay? No, don't worry. I just saw an apple flying across the stage. But this is a different circle. This is a really important circle. This is a circle of people who come together. You know, we Westerners, we go out, and when we go out to find friends. In China, that's not the case. China, they go out to be with their friends. So, to win in China, your business needs to understand two very, very essential oils. And the first oil is guanxi. Some of you might know what that means, and some of you might misinterpret it as, if you like, bribing and backhanding. And actually, that's not entirely correct. Bribery and backhanding happens across the world. If it's on the table and it's there and no one's looking, someone will pick it up. And you don't have to have that only in China. It happens everywhere. Really, what I understand about guanxi is that it's a delicate social dance of referral. In China, hardwired into the DNA of the Chinese, their culture, their wonderful culture, their society, their complex society, and business is this. Everyday normal interactions soon become transactional ones. And they prefer to have things recommended to them by people they know, by people they trust, by people they've got to hear about. When they get to know them, they sit down and they talk about things. That's really what they want. It's really, really important. In the United States, in the United Kingdom, word of mouth, we see it as, well, yes, I understand that. You like something, you tell something, and it's as easy as that. It's not as simple as that. So that's the first oil. There's a second oil, and I'm sure all the Chinese in the audience will laugh now when I try to say these words, but it's Wulong, which is the power of deferral. It comes from Confucius. The cardinal relationship central to Confucianism. Sovereign to the subject, father to the son, elder brother to the younger brother, wife, husband, or husband and wife, and of course, friend and friend. And you might say, well, what's that all about? These are hierarchies and nuances that are not incidental. They form the core of Chinese society. They respect people who are their elders. They look up to people in power. Key opinion leaders are extraordinarily important within China. Miss that, miss Wulong, miss Guangxi, and you will not have a successful word of mouth in high-ticket items like a car. And you might consider that not consequential, but it has huge consequences. What you put in and what you take out is extremely important. From a Western point of view, it's a bit like this. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in the fruit salad. So, we went out, and you saw a lovely clip earlier on. We went out and we created something, a program dedicated to capturing and engaging people, trying to understand these oils. And it was pretty successful, 14.6 million unique visitors, and we had over 43 million views, and very importantly, over 260,000 people, it was extraordinary, submitted ideas to us. And in May 2011, we launched the People's Car Project, and in 2012, what we did was we said, okay, where did we get to? And so we had a lady who won a design, but then we thought, let's create the conversation even further. Let's talk to people. Let's talk to those people who have a true passion for design, and let's put them to the test. And so we did that. And so let me share this little clip with you.
What does it take to make a car? Yes, it's about the shape, the interior, the engine, but that's not enough. You have to understand the people.
如果要是我给自己设一辆车的话，
像风一样的流线，像刺猬一样。
If you understand the people, you can create the perfect car for them. That's why we created the People's Car Project.
After 2 years, from 30 million people, the People's Car Project reviewed over 260,000 ideas. We've narrowed it down to 104 ideas. This year, over a 10-part online series, 6 design teams will compete and 1 will become the People's Car.
This is a collaboration between 2 of the best universities in China, as well as working with experts from other design fields.
中国人一直有一个汽车梦，这个汽车梦它是面向未来的，是拥有一辆什么样的车？
其实我知道大众制造这个项目挺早的，没有想到就是过了1年多以后，真的能参加到这个项目。
网红过来接一个，没有明确，其实没有明确的东西，就是窗户口这里。
我们之前一直没睡觉，来得及吗？能做完吗？
那段时间压力很大，就什么都不会，什么都要学。
系里面一般就是正常家庭，没有什么太有钱的。
等到我有能力的时候，肯定会帮助他们去实现他们希望实现的东西。
不管赢不赢，都要做到最好。
我想赢。
我要赢。
我会赢。
The team who have won, whose model will go to the show, is for fun.
那还没太反应过来，太激动了，有点懵。
挺失落的，因为毕竟我们付出的努力挺多的。
不赢也哭。
Winning design will be realized, and we will show that live at the Shanghai Auto Show for everybody to see.
未来的人们开什么样的车，将由大众之车来决定。
Volkswagen, das Auto.
You know, it was amazing to be part of that passion and to see these people who really were leaning into our brand. What was also very interesting was that we actually managed to move ourselves from 126th position 50 places up, which is incredible. We established trust. We underpinned our innovation credentials. We reminded people in terms of our claim to originality, and we increased our brand desirability. But where to from there? what do we do next? And so the great thing is we spoke to all those people out there, all those people who are willing to lean into our brand. And so we kept on coming up with this thing about originality. The thing is, there's nothing original about originality. Originality, after all, is but an ideal. As Jim Stegall, the ex-chief marketing officer of Procter & Gamble, says. But what you do within it, how you take an idea and create something, that is how you make it fantastic and different. So we decided to stake our claim to this originality and to take it to the next step. So today what I will tell you is that later on this year, we will be launching the next generation of originality called the People's Car Originals. And what we did was we spoke to a lot of people out there, and it was amazing. There's so many things of interest. You know, there are 380 million people in China who listen to music online. There's 325 million people who are watching videos online and so on. It's extraordinary. And so we looked at all of this and thought, what do we do with this? And we've got an idea, and obviously we don't want to share too much of that idea today, but principally it's around three things. It's about adopt, adapt, and apply. Adopt, we will adopt their passion. Adapt, it's all about how we adapt to their conversation. And then finally, how do we apply all of that passion to our own business? So what I want to do is read our little poem to you that will be our guiding light and our defining purpose as we create the next chapter of the People's Car Originals. For Volkswagen and many people, a car is more than a car. A car is poetry in motion, a compass that guides us, a quiet place for our minds to run free, a music box, a cradle for our child, a warm cabin for our friends, a shelter from the storm, a way home, a chance to reach new frontiers. A car is not just made of glass and metal, it's made of our imaginations. We write stories on the open road, compose songs about cars, make movies about road trips. We create fashion around cars. We have joyful moments in cars and give birth in cars. It's the people's originality that will define us all, and Volkswagen will be a part of it. We call this program the People's Originals. Thank you. And so in closing, I shared with you two fundamentals of China engagement. One was Guanxi, which is around referral, and the other one was deferral. So let me now share with you a point of brand wisdom. And it starts with an untidy truth, and there will be people perhaps in this audience that might not really want to hear this truth. But it's simply this. There's so much choice out there that I wonder sometimes if actually they need any more choice at all. And I've come to the profound view, although I have to say some of my own directors don't agree with me on this, that consumers do not need brands. I'll repeat that as a marketing man standing up here. Consumers do not need brands. I think brands need consumers. In our own lives, we are all actually amateurs. We don't know tomorrow what we're going to do tomorrow because we've never practiced tomorrow because tomorrow hasn't come. We are amateurs. We are eternally learning. And as I get older, I realize it's less about leaving life behind and more about gaining knowledge. And therein lies a life truth, which I think is a brand truth. And it's simply this. Brands that eternally learn, powered by consumers, are brands that win. And businesses and brands that follow each other and chase each other, invariably, they don't do very well at all. So here at VW, for us, social media and digital, it's not a strategy. Our two oils are about the richness of content and the application of our reach. But, and here's the but, the best of intuitive conversationing with our consumers, that will be our distinct prize. Thank you so much for listening.
So, thank you, both of you. Please have a seat. We've just got time probably for just one question. I just wanted to say, both to Alexei and to Richard, thank you for great presentations. A lot of themes consistent, a lot of themes that actually we're seeing across this week in Cannes. The idea of purpose and the importance of purpose. Volkswagen's purpose of asking consumers to shape their future. Pepsi's purpose to bring families closer together. Cultural relevance. Ideas that bring to life human insights in a really powerful way. And obviously content. And what Kevin Burke, I think in an earlier session, called irresistibly shareable content. And I think we saw a lot of that today. So lots of consistent themes. As I say, we've got a few minutes just for one or two questions. I'm conscious of keeping you from your rosé. The first thing I really wanted to ask both of you is, obviously you've both worked in China and been very successful in China. Both of you have worked overseas and been very successful overseas. Perhaps Richard, starting with you, what advice would you give some of the younger people in the audience in terms of your experiences as a marketeer?
I think the first one is actually what I said in the presentation, is that at the end of the day, it's about having a great story. I know that we talk about like storytelling a lot, but it's not so much about the telling part. You really have to have a great story. And the most effective stories is often the one that talks about humanity. And my second advice is really come work in China. Seriously, I mean, China has just really begun the journey of growth. I mean, I think the best is yet to come. I mean, you talk about the government driving urbanization, promoting domestic consumption. And technology-wise, everything in China leapfrogs. So for a creative person like you guys, there's really a lot of opportunities to push the boundaries, to experiment with new ideas. And also, I think China would also benefit with more diversity of thinking. So come work in China.
So either send your CV to Richard or send it to me. Alexei, any thoughts?
What was the question?
What advice would you give, given your experience in China and overseas?
I think from a creative point of view, obviously, when you look at the ideas that Richard showed and what I've shared, actually they're fundamentally quite simple. I think people are, increasingly more educated. They have access to information like never before. And I sometimes think that what creatives could do a bit more of is, in the pursuit of simple and powerful, is to be a bit more thoughtful. And I think that would be great. And I actually think that's not really the fault of creatives. I actually think it's the fault of client service leaders. Mm-hmm. I think they're not engaging their clients in proper conversation. They're not fighting for the creatives the way they should. And therefore, they're not giving the creatives the insight that they require to be thoughtful, to just look for that 5% of magic that can make the world of difference. So simplicity, keep going, but be a little bit more thoughtful.
Terrific. Okay, I think we are out of time. I wanted to thank Richard and Alexei for inspiring presentations. In creating content like that, obviously there are a lot of partners involved on PepsiCo, BBDO, DDB, the director David Shui, in Volkswagen, Jörg Walger of Goodstein, who I know is here, and a number of Greenkern and a number of other partners and participants. So hugely complex programs, tremendously successful programs, wonderful pieces of storytelling. I know that Alexei and Richard are around for the next couple of days, so I hope you have an opportunity to buy them a glass of rosé. So
I want to embarrass him if I can. Georg, stand up.
Yeah, Georg.
This man is what every client wants, an inspiring pain in the ass. All right? Inspires and it will hold his ground and debate it to the nth degree. Absolutely, you weight in gold. And I have to say, you know, I'm the wordsmith, but you're the magician. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
To Alexei Orlov from Volkswagen Group, Richard Lee from PepsiCo, and of course, Chris Thomas from Proximity Worldwide. Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. If you missed the earlier workshop by Jack Morton, that's going to take place again very shortly in the workshop room in the Audi A Theatre. MJV will have their forum starting at 5 o'clock. And when we return here at 5 o'clock in about 10 minutes, we'll be hearing from Contagious and Leo Burnett. See you very shortly.